Directed by David Twohy and released in 2013, Riddick is the third film in the Riddick series and the sequel to The Chronicles of Riddick, which isn't confusing at all. Seriously, the naming convention for this series is insane. Here's a graphic for clarification. Even though I found The Chronicles of Riddick to be pretty mediocre, I was curious to see where the third film would go. And even though a lot of people warned me about the third Riddick film, what I found was a movie that got back to the core of what I like about this series, even if it was also pretty silly. Here's why.
Wait. Wait. Steady. Okay, now.
The biggest praise that I can give to Riddick 2013 is that it gets back to the roots of what I enjoyed about Pitch Black. The movie takes place 5 years after the events of Chronicles and sees the titular Riddick stranded on a desert planet and being hunted by two teams of rival bounty hunters, each hoping to claim Riddick's reward for themselves. After the Chronicles of Riddick tried to turn the series into an epic space opera, Riddick harkens back to the small-scale survival story of the first film. This movie is grounded and gritty in its violence, and the technology is industrial and ramshackle again. Most of the science fantasy elements introduced in the last movie are removed in favor of crafting a story that feels more in line with the original Pitch Black. I could easily see some viewers not liking this change, but as someone who greatly prefers Pitch Black to Chronicles, I welcome this return to form. This movie also brings the character of Riddick back down to being a violent anti-hero, which I greatly prefer. Vin Diesel actually negotiated getting the rights to Riddick from Universal and even mortgaged his home in order to get this movie made. It's clear that Vin Diesel really enjoys playing this character, and given that the Riddick movies are not nearly as profitable as his other ventures, I've gotta respect that. While Chronicles mostly depicted Riddick as a stoic warrior, this movie gives Riddick a lot more emotional range again. I like his relationship with the alien jackal he finds and raises as a pet, even if I could see it coming from a mile away that it was going to be killed. And the middle section of the movie, when Riddick is methodically outwitting and killing the bounty hunters one by one, is easily the most entertaining part of the movie. It's not quite to the level of characterization and cool factor that Pitch Black gave the character, but it's still entertaining nonetheless. We've also got Dave Bautista and Katie Sackhoff added to the mix, who are both entertaining and fully immersed in their respective roles. And including Johns' father as one of the hunters chasing Riddick adds some much-needed drama after the loss of Abu and Kira in the last film. In addition, this is easily the best looking and best edited of all the Riddick films. Unlike with Pitch Black and Chronicles, there weren't any moments of weird editing or cinematography that pulled me out of the movie. This is also the first movie in the series in which I really noticed the score, which is pretty good. In a lot of ways, Riddick 2013 is a very goofy movie. Some of the action scenes are completely over the top, and so many of the lines are pretty corny.
There are bad days. And then there are legendary bad days. Says dog food on it. If you could read.
But all of this is the kind of corniness that I enjoy, and it rarely ever pulled me out of the movie. I can appreciate an over-the-top action movie if there is some self-awareness about it, and this movie was self-aware enough to keep me entertained without ever being annoying.
It's always the punch you don't see coming that puts you down.
The biggest negative of Riddick 2013 is that it has to abandon the ending of Chronicles in order for its plot to work. It's clear that David Twohy and Vin Diesel wanted to make a movie more in line with Pitch Black, but the ending of Chronicles forced them into a corner that they desperately needed to get out of. So, in the first 15 minutes of the movie, we are immediately told that Riddick has abandoned the Necromonger throne to go find his homeworld and is immediately betrayed by Vako as a result. This is such a sudden shift in Riddick's character and a very clunky way to get the story going. And given that Vako was trying to kill Riddick for most of the last movie, you'd think Riddick would have expected a betrayal. It cracks me up that Carl Urban is billed as high as he is in the credits when he literally has less than 2 minutes of screen time in this movie. But beyond the clunky opening, the pacing of the movie is also not very good. We spend a long time with Riddick just wandering around the desert until he encounters the mercenaries. From there, we transition into the second act with the cat and mouse game between the hunters and Riddick. Then in the third act, that plotline all of a sudden gets overtaken by the alien monsters that force them all to work together. Had the movie focused on the bounty hunter plotline while slowly building up the creatures in the background, I think this would have worked a lot better and made the movie more coherent. This movie is also way more thirsty than the last two movies, and there's really no good reason for it beyond just indulgence. And now that a fourth Riddick movie has been officially announced that will supposedly tie back into the Necromonger plotline from Chronicles, I'm unsure how this movie will fit into the larger series. With all of these movies, it really feels like the writers are just making all of this up as they go, which on the one hand is entertaining to watch, but on the other hand, it runs the risk of making the series feel very incoherent in retrospect.
Not sure how I'm supposed to overlook that. Next time.
Yeah, things would have been different if they weren't trying to put my head in a box.
Overall, Riddick 2013 is the kind of sequel I was hoping to get after Pitch Black. A scrappy, small-scale story of survival that deals with a tight-knit group of characters rather than a sprawling space opera. The story is a bit rough around the edges, and while it isn't as good as Pitch Black, this movie got back to the heart of what made the first film such a surprise hit for me. And for that, I'm giving Riddick from 2013 3 out of 5 stars. As of now, it hasn't been announced when the fourth Riddick film will be released, but you can expect that I will be there to see how this franchise is continued. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and comment down below your own thoughts on Riddick from 2013 and what you'd like to see from the upcoming fourth Riddick film. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.